Are you following me? Are you following me, dude?
This week's Instagram gardener is Carly McQuarrie from The Little Green Shoot. Carly is a teacher, blogger, urban homesteader, and founder of The Little Green Shoot. With humor, grace, and good old fashioned positivity, she leads you through the process of creating your own urban oasis and productive garden, even in the city. With passion for making things easy and fun, she will help you become more self sufficient, saving you both money and trips to the grocery store. You can follow her on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, and her website, thelittlegreenshoot.com. So, all right, let's welcome to the show Carly McQuarrie of The Little Green Shoot. Hi, Carly. How are you doing? Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Enoch. It's so nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Awesome. I really love your Instagram. You do awesome things, and it's really great to follow along with you there. So, right off the bat, I want to ask you what got you into gardening? What was one of your first gardening experiences?
I love that question. I love like origin stories where people got inspired to do whatever
That's
they're
what we're
doing.
all about for sure.
Stories are so great. So I actually didn't grow up gardening. There weren't a lot of gardeners in my life, but I have a couple experiences that I feel like really shaped me. And one of them was my grandma grew up, or I grew up going to my grandma's house right on the Puget Sound. And she had my papa was like a character, and he would do these crazy things like they lived in a house on stilts in New Guinea till my dad was in fifth grade. Like he got fool's gold, like some scam like that. And one of the things that he did was he came home with these two goats one day, and they were in a small town, but they had no property. So they had this little tiny like tool shed. And my papa comes home with these two goats in like this much space. And, goats like to have room, So,
Right.
anyways, over time, after my papa passed away and the goats had moved on as well, my grandma took this tiny little like goat area and made it into this little vegetable garden. And she would make me fried green tomatoes, and I just felt so special and so loved from that. She would grow zucchini and make a zucchini bread. And so I think that, like, even though it was just these little snapshot moments of this tiny little space, I think that definitely shaped me as well. And then when I was a teenager, my boyfriend at the time got me a job working in nurseries and greenhouses. And it was pretty much all over after that. Like I just completely fell in love with plants and gardening. You know how it hooks you in.
That's right. It sure does. That's similar for me. Once you get started, once you get working with plants, you want to grow everything there is out there for sure. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really great to also to have kind of that experiences when you're younger too with the garden as well too. I've only got very limited ones myself. I started my gardening when I was just a bit older, but it's the
Mm-hmm.
same story. Once you get growing, you want to grow more and more and more. You get hooked, the passion just really takes hold. So what do you like most about gardening when you're growing in your garden?
Um, it's one of those things, I'm sure you feel this way too. It kind of takes all these different aspects of my personality and fuses them into one. So I'm kind of thrifty. I love to save money. I'm kind of lazy. I don't like to go to the grocery store. And so having food that's just readily available to me for to pick for free right outside my door is awesome. And then I like to be creative, and I love nature and beauty. And so it's this kind of perfect combination where I get to have this great utilitarian thing, but then also it's just beautiful and it's a creative outlet and you can just enjoy. And then another thing that I wasn't actually expecting is the connection to my community. So because I have a small space, I'm out in the front yard a lot where,
Right.
my garden's kind of in my driveway. And just the connections I've made with my community through that. It's funny as we go down our street now, everyone has the same garden beds that I do. They'll come by and they'll be like, where'd you get those? Where'd you get those? And so now we're like kind of this posse of these metal raised beds in our neighborhood. And it's just been so fun getting to know them, and all of us kind of starting gardening together. It's been really cool too.
Yeah, that's really great too. And I have a similar kind of story of how I got started with doing all of the YouTube and sharing all of my gardening on social media and all of that is I grow on these alleyway spaces running along my house, and people are walking through all the time, and I get a lot of my neighbors and people from the community or just come by just to check out what I've got growing on, and it was a lot of them who encouraged me to start sharing everything. They're like, "Yeah, this is
Hmm.
amazing what you're doing here. You need to get out and share this with everybody else." And that's kind of how everything got started for me as far as doing the channel and leading up to this very show too, which is kind of something you never know where things are really going to take you when you get started, huh?
I agree 100%. And I feel like what's meant to be will always find you. And those things, it's kind of like gardening, right? It starts with this seed of an idea, and
Yeah.
you just kind of feel pulled towards something, and it just kind of grows
Yeah.
on and on from there. So that's really neat that you've got the same situation.
Yeah, what an analogy too. Start with a seed and see where it grows, right?
Hmm.
So what are some of your favorite plants that you like growing in your garden?
Well, I love variety, so I like to try all kinds of different things each year. But one thing I really recommend, especially for people who are looking to save money or people who are in a small space, is herbs. As you know, there's a huge variety of different herbs that you can grow. But the reason why these I think are great for urban gardeners is they don't take up very much space. They're pretty versatile. They're pretty forgiving. And I don't know if you've been to the store lately, but the prices of everything is bonkers. But herbs, especially, you'll see this little tiny thing. It's like $7 or $8. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've got this much of that growing right outside my door for free. And then, all the health benefits, and I like to cook a lot, and I feel like when you throw some herbs on there, you can just look and feel super fancy with what you've got going on.
Yeah.
So I think those are a no-brainer for new gardeners in the city for sure.
Yeah, it's really something to be able to just take something up out of your garden, and especially like you said, when you look at the prices of things. I was shopping with my daughter recently, and she was also looking at some fresh herbs in there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, all of that costs that much?" I was like, "If you need that, we'll stop by the house. I've got it out in my herb garden." And that's something I just
Totally.
got to doing this week too, was cleaning out and clearing out and getting everything shaped up for the herb garden this year too. So yeah, those are
Yeah.
really good ones. Herbs are a really good one to have for sure.
Yeah. And
So
vegetables too. Like,
yeah.
I think especially growing vegetables that you can preserve to last all season. I love to grow tomatoes just like my grandma, but also
Hmm.
onions and garlic. We grow enough of those that we don't have to buy those at the store anymore. So that's awesome too.
Yeah,
Salad
garlic.
greens. Hmm.
Yeah, garlic's one of my favorites too. And I always love, with garlic is, you plant them out in the fall and you put them in the ground, and then, winter passes by, and next thing you know, they're just popping up and shooting up from the
Hmm.
ground. We've got a whole bunch of them popping up all over the garden right now in both of my different spaces. I really
Yeah.
love garlic. My daughter loves garlic, and a
Hmm.
lot of the neighbors, my friends. So I grow a whole bunch of that so I can make sure that I've got
Yeah.
some for myself, and I can get to everybody else who likes them as well too. So
Yeah. And it's a sacrifice in an urban garden because they can take up to 9 months, and it's cool. Like you said,
yeah,
they grow over the winter, but you really have to devote some space if you're going to have a 9-month crop. But I'm like
yeah,
you, it's totally worth it. We put garlic in everything. So
yeah, yeah. And I'm always just finding little spaces here or there. Okay, we're like in this little corner over here, this little spot over there. And then this last year is lucky enough to get a really cool big plot at my friend's house. He's got this really cool corner lot, does everything out of his front yard. And we put these 20 by 40 foot. So we've got a couple of rows of garlic now. So not only do we have
it's
enough for
awesome.
ourselves, but everybody's getting garlic this year. That's for sure.
Well, and you can dehydrate it. You can make it into garlic powder
Yeah.
and give it as gifts in the winter too. It's just there's so much you can do.
And then always be sure to save some for your next year's crop too.
Yep. And that's
Always.
when you feel super cool because then it's like I not only don't have to buy it at the store, I don't even have to buy it to plant. You know, it's like you plant it once and then it just is a gift that keeps going for you.
Yeah, yeah. It just, yeah, it multiplies every year for sure.
Yep.
So we've talked about some of your favorite plants. What are some of those least favorite things that you find you don't like really growing or have presented a challenge to you, or something that you have a hard time having successes with in your garden? Because I know we all have them.
Yeah, for sure. You know, one thing that I don't really grow anymore is corn. And it's
Okay.
just because it takes up a lot of space and resources in an urban garden. And I live in Washington. And so, yes, we can grow corn, but a lot of times you put all that energy, that space sacrifice, you know, needs so much nutrition. And then, you know, your corn will be not developed all the cobs or whatever. So that's one that I've just kind of let go. I might try it again one of these days, but I'd rather use the space for something that's a little more productive
Yes.
than corn. Corn's delicious, but
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's definitely one that takes up a lot of space, takes up a lot of water and nutrient,
hmm
all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, it really wants a lot out of your garden. But I love corn too. I love how fast it grows,
hmm
but again, you got to have a bunch of them. You can't just have a
yeah.
couple of plants. So you got to have a
hmm
bunch of them so that they can pollinate each other. And again, like you said, it just takes up a lot of space. And
Right.
I've kind of cut back on corn a bit myself. But again, I do have this new space at my friend's place. And that's something we've been talking about, is like this just a big, huge stand of corn. But we'll see where that goes. But I have to agree
Yeah.
with you about it taking up the space that it does.
Well, and in an urban garden, there's so many careful choices you have to make because everything that you decide to plant is a decision not to plant something else, you know? And so
Yeah.
as you get going and try different things, you find those things that give you kind of the most bang for your buck and that you truly love. And then you have
Yeah.
to let some of those things go, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we'd love to grow everything we possibly can, but you're right.
hmm
When it comes to smaller spaces, you've really got to consolidate what you want to grow down to the things that you're really going to be using, the things that, you really enjoy. And,
hmm
don't do the things that take up space or present too much of a challenge for you, so that you can keep using that space for the things that succeed in your garden. S- So you've been doing all this gardening and sharing online, and we're here for the Instagram segment. You've got a great Instagram with a lot of great followers. What inspired you to get out and start sharing this experience that you were having in your garden?
It's a little bit like we were talking about earlier. It's like, you know, I feel like you kind of go through life regular and then something just starts to pull at you. And it's like that thing where you can't say no, it just keeps pulling you in deeper and deeper. And I know a lot of people
Yep.
have had that experience with gardening. And I just like, I'm a big gut feeling person. And a few years ago, I just had this overwhelming gut feeling to start doing this. And I just think it's really, people are excited about it and want to learn about it, but it's also just really important. I think we're going through this major transition, all of us, and I think people want to start growing their own food. And if I can be a resource and help people with that, I would love to be there for that. And it's just fun. It's beautiful. I love photography. I love writing, and so it's cool to be able to share on Instagram or any of those platforms the different things I like to grow. And it's nice I have a dedicated Instagram for that, so I'm not like bothering all my regular friends. Just like I don't want to hear about your garden anymore, you know.
Yeah, that's really great. And like I said, you have a really great Instagram. You got a lot of great followers, and you share a lot of really great information. I really appreciate what you do as far as that goes. Do you have any like future plans for your garden, or any projects or anything that you've got coming up?
Well, personally, my biggest, I hope, future plan, I've had a lifelong dream to move to a warmer climate. I'm in Western Washington, and that's a challenge for me a little bit for my garden, but mostly for me. I would love to get some more sunshine. So that's a personal goal I'm working on. And then with the Little Green Shoot, we've got just tons of stuff going on all the time. I just finished a bunch of summits that were really cool and some giveaways. But the thing I'm most excited about right now is I actually created a course that's totally on demand online for people to learn about this and kind of go through the very beginning phases of where it's just kind of a plan in your imagination, and then making a garden space, getting planted, and then learning how to grow, how to harvest, how to actually cook the things that you use, and then even how to preserve them. So I'm super excited about sharing that with everybody too.
Awesome. Awesome. That sounds great. And you mentioned you're from Western Washington. Where at in Western Washington?
So I live in Vancouver right now, right by Portland, Oregon. I've been here for like
Okay.
almost 20 years, but I'm from the Puget Sound area,
Okay.
up by Seattle. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I lived in the Kent and Renton area for many, many years. That's where I raised my daughter there, and now live just in
Oh,
the southern part of Oregon, down in southern Oregon. So yeah,
oh, nice.
not too far from each other. Some Pacific
Yeah,
Northwest gardeners. So,
yeah.
um, so last question for you today is: do you have any advice or tips for new gardeners?
Yes. Oh my gosh, so many things. How do I limit this? Okay. I honestly think the biggest thing is mindset. So giving yourself grace for when things don't go the way that you wanted them to. I think people, especially with gardening, for some reason, it's like if something doesn't happen the way they expected, they just immediately consider themselves like a failure, like it's not working, all those things when they just don't have the skills yet and it takes time to develop. So give yourself grace. Also, I would really recommend, starting small and growing what you love. I think a lot of times people grow all kinds of different things and it gets stressful and overwhelming. Really focus on those things you love.
Yeah, great, great advice, and really great to have you here to join with us on our Let's Get Growing show. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, awesome. Follow Carly at the Little Green Shoot on Instagram, and we'll see you later. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.